Okay, I want to thank Kendall for inviting me out, and I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. It's the weather's kind of disgusting, but you braved it, and thank you for showing up. I also want to thank you for holding a candle against the darkness, for choosing to bear witness. I was thinking this morning, a vigil is different than a protest. A protest declares what we are against. But a vigil reminds us of what we are for. Our values, our morals, and our principles. We're here because people have been impacted. Families separated. Children traumatized. Human beings treated as problems to be solved rather than people to be seen. We're here because someone's father isn't coming home tonight. Because a child is asking questions that no child should have to ask. And because fear has moved into homes where there should only be safety. And we light these candles for them. Not for policy debates or political arguments, but for them. Not just for the people whose names we know, but also for those whose names we may not know, but whose humanity we recognize. Let me be direct about why we're gathered. When ICE agents use force that exceeds the bounds of human dignity, when families are separated with trauma that will echo for generations, when people are treated as threats to be eliminated, rather than humans deserving of respect, that goes against everything I believe about how we should treat one another.
Amen.
This isn't abstract. These are choices, actions, words that wound. And in a vigil like this, we name them honestly, not to create enemies, but to bear witness to what's real. Tonight is not about taking sides. It's about acknowledging what's been lost. Lost. The sense of safety that should belong to every family. Lost. The trust that those who enforce our laws will do so with dignity. Lost. The belief that in America, we see each other as neighbors, not threats. These losses are real. They matter. And we honor them by refusing to look away.
Amen.
But I didn't come here tonight only to name what's wrong. You already know that. We all do. I came to tell you what I'm for. Because that's what gives a vigil like this its power. Not just witnessing darkness, but articulating the light that we're working toward. I stand for accountability in law enforcement at every level, from local police to federal agents. Not because I view officers as enemies, but because accountability protects both the people they serve and their own integrity. I stand for the dignity of every human being, regardless of how they came to be standing on American soil. Dignity isn't something people earn by documentation. It's something they possess by simply being human.
That's it. Yes, sir.
I stand for families staying together unless there's genuine cause to separate them. For transparency in how power is used. For systems that recognize the complexity of immigration while never losing sight of the humanity involved. I stand for a country where we can disagree about policy while agreeing that violence, whether from protesters or from agents of the state, is unacceptable. Now, I want to be honest. I know some people in our community see immigration policy differently than I do. Some neighbors we pass on the street, some people in our churches and schools, they have different views about borders, about enforcement, about what keeps us safe. And here's what I believe. We can disagree about approaches, about policies, about what secure borders means in practice, and still find common ground. Because I don't believe anyone, regardless of their political views, actually stands for violence, for trauma, for treating human beings as disposable. So even as we stand here tonight with our candles, honoring those who've been impacted, I'm extending an invitation to our whole community. Can we agree that how we treat people matters? That accountability isn't optional?
Yes, sir.
That there's a line between enforcement and brutality, and we should all want to know when it's been crossed. That's not naive. That's strategic. Because the only way that we build lasting change is by articulating values that are bigger than our divisions. I believe in an America where we can enforce our laws without abandoning our values, where border security and human dignity aren't opposites but partners, where agents are held to the highest standards because their work is so important, where families seeking refuge are met with both order and compassion. And I think many of you believe in that version of America too.
Yes, sir.
Where children don't have to be afraid, where parents don't have to choose between safety and being together, where our communities are built on something stronger than fear. That's what I'm building toward. Not a world without disagreement, but a world where disagreement doesn't require dehumanization. When we leave here tonight and the candles go out, this doesn't end. The work continues. It's the work of documenting injustice and demanding accountability without turning every agent into a monster or every critic into an enemy. It's having conversations where we actually listen to people who see immigration differently, looking for shared values, even when we disagree on solutions. It's supporting organizations doing this work with wisdom and compassion, not just performative outrage. It's staying aware instead of becoming numb. It's remembering faces when it would be easier to think in abstractions. It's the work of holding on to our values when they're tested, of refusing to let cruelty become normal, of insisting that people are always people regardless of how they arrive or what papers they carry. Vigils like this, they don't change laws, not directly. They don't stop raids or reverse policies. So why do we gather? We gather because some things need to be witnessed. Because darkness doesn't get to have the last word. Because when people are suffering, isolation makes it worse, and community, even the community of strangers holding candles, can make it a little more bearable. We gather because it matters that someone shows up, that someone says, "You are not alone. We see you. Your humanity is not in question." We gather because we refuse to accept that this is who we are. We insist on being better, on building better, on standing for something worth the struggle. I don't know how many of the people we're honoring tonight will ever know that we stood here. Probably most won't. But we will know.
Yes.
We'll know that when violence was happening, we didn't look away. When families were hurting, we bore witness. When it would have been easier to stay home, especially tonight, we showed up. And we'll know what we stand for, not just what we're against. We stand for dignity, for accountability, for families, for vision of community that's bigger than our fears. That's the work. That's why we're here. That's what these candles represent. Not just light against darkness, but light toward something. A future we're building together, one act of witness at a time, one conversation at a time, one choice to show up at a time. I want to thank you for being that kind of person. Thank you for being here. And may these candles remind us even the smallest light pushes back the darkness. And I believe that together, we're not small.
Amen.